Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about a blended cultural identity, ladies and gentlemen. That is a thinker, and that is what we will be thinking about today with Melissa. Thank you so much for coming onto my show, sharing your time and your perspective with me. I'm truly honored for this conversation because I think this is something that we really need to think about, right? So, with that being said, what does a blended cultural identity, what does that make you think about initially?
Honestly, it makes me think about just what our country is based on. I mean, our country is a melting pot. It was based on people blending our cultures together. I mean, the first people that came over because they were trying to escape persecution, religious persecution. And you think about it, the only people that are actually been here in the US has been indigenous people, the Native American people. The
Mm.
Mayans were here also. So, you think about it, and it's just hard when it's not one culture, a whole bunch of different cultures together, blended in together, and you take the best of both worlds and you create your own little mini culture out of it.
Yes, I love that you said it that way because I think you said it perfectly. That's something that I was actually thinking about while I was getting myself situated before our conversation today. Because in reality, the only place that to be really pure blood of one culture or one real or like you know what I mean, like race is when you're actually in that country. Like an African is going to be with a marry an African if they're in Africa. I get it. If you're a Brazilian and you live in Brazil and you meet another Brazilian and you get married, you're gonna have Brazilian babies. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
makes sense. But out in the United States, it's so different. You know what I mean? Because we have, and even in Canada, you know what I mean? Even in Canada, there's a lot of intercultural races as well. So it's just like out here in North America, we really have blended relationships with other cultures because you know what I mean? We share, you know what I mean? We unite. We're all intermingled together trying to become one community. That's what the unity that really makes America America, you know what I mean? But then
Mhm.
it's like even in other countries that are very like close together like in Central America, you know, you have Ecuador, you have Costa Rica, you know what I mean? You have Guatemala, you know what I mean? You have all of those they intermingle too because it's really close connection like in France, you know what I mean? You have France, you have other European countries all close together. You know, you can see the Europeans all they intermingle together. So either way, no matter even if you're from America or not, intermingled cultural identity is really what it is. We're now realizing that we all have a little bit of everything together. I mean, if you check on ancestry.com, a lot of people have, oh my goodness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they really do show you that, oh, you're also here and here and here and here. I mean, what are your thoughts on ancestry.com?
I think it's great, but I also think that there's that tracking option where I think I'm skeptical about because why do you want to put your information out there? And they're,
Yeah.
oh, well, with what's going on right now, you wonder if that going to be something that later on they're going to tap into that and say, okay, we're going to put you in these camps or we're going to put you in these. You got to think about that. I'm thinking about putting your information out.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you on that. I haven't done it, but my family members have. So I absolutely like, oh, that's a little sketchy. But even if you haven't done it and somebody else in your family members have, they can still identify you because that's how they got that one killer out in the West Coast was
Yeah.
because his cousin did ancestry.com or did one of those ancestry DNA test or whatever. And that's how they linked them together. But it's really interesting because there's like a give and take to that. Like but at the same time, when you go onto them, it's like they make you put in the information, you know what I mean? And then they
Uh-huh.
tally up and then they do the
Uh-huh.
algorithm. So it's like it's kind of like, okay, so I have to still tell you what I know, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's here and there. But anyways, so for you personally, what are some pros and cons that you've realized that are in a blended cultural community or just identity?
Okay, I'm going to give the backstory first because lot of people are probably seeing this and saying, what does a white woman know about blended cultural identity? So let me give the backstory. My husband is a permanent resident of the United States. He's a native of Mexico. My son-in-law actually is three-quarters Japanese. So we have three cultures blended in, and I was born and raised in the South, but my parents are from up north, up in Massachusetts. But the good things is that you get to take the best of each culture and put it together and create your own little culture and your own little, like, I don't want to say cult, but pretty much, your own little, you know what I'm saying? Your own
Yeah.
special
It's
way
like,
of doing things. You take the
yeah.
best of both. Like we have Christmas, but we also have Santa Reyes, and the girls knew that growing up. And they knew at Christmas Eve, instead of doing the big Christmas dinner, we did the big Christmas Eve dinner with sopes and just having a
Yeah.
great time, And then the bad part about it is sometimes you don't understand the cultural differences. Like what one word could mean in one culture can be suddenly something opposite in another culture, and you're like, what? What? No, no, no.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think you really touched on it very well because that is a big thing. Like you can create something so beautiful. Like it doesn't even make sense. But it just works. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think it works, but it works, and it kind of tastes good. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to
Uh-huh.
food. So it's just it really does depends on your like dynamic, and then when it doesn't work, it usually does, cross with language barrier, cultural barrier, just like understanding that certain body languages mean certain things in certain cultures and wearing clothes a certain way. You know what I mean? Like we have to understand that. So I think when it comes to like understanding that you may be part of a different culture or just, you know what I mean, a different culture is in your family dynamic. I think just learning and just giving your time the opportunity to learn is a great way to just appreciate what's happening in your home because I'm assuming when you married your husband, you really had to give yourself some time to learn. Is that right?
Oh, yes, definitely. I remember the very first trip we ever took to Mexico, and I think my two older girls were 5 and 2, I think, at the time. And we went to his sister's house and they were making carnitas. But I had not expected the carnitas, the entrails of the pig, to be hanging on the clothesline because I'm a city girl. I wasn't born and raised in the country. And I was like, that is so gross. Why is that up there? And then also his mom made the best mole ever. That's like my favorite dish of all time. But they would just leave the chicken heads out in the yard and the little kids would come up and start playing with them. I'm like, what the heck? These things are just dead a minute ago. I mean, they were alive. You just killed them, but that's just a way of
Mhm.
life for them, you know?
Yeah,
So you learn.
exactly.
So it was a culture shock, but I also learned to appreciate the fact that my husband made the sacrifice to leave his family to come, and he permanently lives here now. We've been together 30 years. So
Yeah, I mean, he's your husband. You know what I mean? That's the love of your life. You guys had babies together. You are now welcoming in son-in-laws into your lives now. You know what I mean? And
yep.
hopefully future grandbabies. So yeah, I mean, that really becomes something. And one thing I told somebody, it was like when you're with somebody that you love, you learn to love what they love. You know what I mean? Or you learn to love them and all that they are and try to figure out what makes them love certain things. You know what I mean? Like if your husband loves his mom's mole, I bet you're like, yeah, I can see why. That's delicious. You know what I mean? And
Uh,
other things, it's like, you know what? It's a little questionable because of the context in the city, we don't have that. You know what I mean? In the city, we don't have those chickens just flying, like just hanging around their necks all out. Like, no, we go to the store like sane human beings. You know what I mean? But it's like
uh,
we realize at the same time in the predicament in the country, like you raise your own, you do it by hand, you do all the things that a butcher in a store behind closed doors would do. You know what I mean? So it gives you that appreciation, like, wow, look at that. Like his own mother was able to chop it up, and I'm assuming she chopped it up. Like she could have given it to somebody else. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like the fact that they have that, it really does bring you appreciation. It makes you realize like people can live a totally different life than you. You know what I mean? For you, what has this relationship brought you? I mean, what have you gained the most out of this?
Oh my gosh, what is it? Acceptance? I mean, I wasn't even accepted by my own family, but with his family, I was accepted. I was loved, obviously loved because we've been together 30, married 30, together 31. Just a new appreciation of different things. And, sometimes we judge so many people about what they do and how they look or the ways they act. But then you look at it and you're like, well, that's part of their culture. Like when I first went, yes, of course I like had my nose up in the air a little bit because I didn't know what to expect. And I will
Yeah.
even agree to that. You know, I will say, yes, I did that. But now I look back and say, wow, they did the best they could to survive because when my husband was growing up, he's number 9 of 10. And when he was growing up, they only had, I think, 2 bedrooms. And now they have a bunch of bedrooms. I mean, his mom and dad, once the kids left, and they started building out the house. And I'm like, why is it they're building out now? I mean, they've since passed on, but to know the appreciation of the family always having each other's back and always being there. Whereas in my family, we didn't have that.
Yeah, I know. That's the realness of it is that I've realized that sometimes the American culture of the independent mentality that you are independent, you care for yourself, you do for yourself, everything's for yourself, self. You realize when you go outside of that American culture that the realness is that it's unity, it's true unity, it's true together. We will back each other up, we will accept you as you are, and if you mess up, we'll let you know because
Yep.
we'll do it kindly. You know what I mean? We'll do it kindly because
Mhm.
the world, when they tell you and they put you in a place, they won't be so nice. You know what I mean? And that's a reality that every human being needs to wake up and realize, you know what I mean? And most definitely get out of it, of this conversation is that like when you blend cultures, you really do get appreciation. You do see this value and you most definitely see seen. You know what I mean? Because I'm Puerto Rican and I'm married and my husband's Mexican. He's a Texan though, so I gotta just Texans are Texans, you know what I mean? Like that's a
Yep.
big thing. That's a big thing. That's a debate that
Yep.
I don't want to go into. But his family has loved me in a way that when his father just passed, like I mourned for that man. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like and it still chokes me up. Like, oh, like he loved me in a way, he supported me in a way that my own father couldn't. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
whew, oh, so I can totally understand where you're saying that because people don't realize that. Oh my goodness. Melissa, I feel like we could keep talking about this and about life in so many different avenues, but yes, time is truly catching up to us. So what can be some lasting words of wisdom that we can all keep on thinking about?
Just stop judging people by the color of their skin and their culture. I mean, honestly, we have to, once you step into someone else's shoes or just experience or sit down and have a conversation with someone from another country or another culture, you'll learn to appreciate the good and the bad things about their cultures. I mean, that's the whole thing is a lot of people are out here flying blind, thinking they know something, but until they actually had that conversation with someone, they don't really know anything. They tend to not make a person like a human being. They tend to think about all the stereotypes that they've heard instead of trying to figure out these stereotypes for themselves are right and trying to do a little bit of due diligence and research on these people instead of actually saying, oh, well, they're this, they're this, they're this, when they're really not.
Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa dropped the mic and she laid down the truth because it is. You said it perfectly. We need to develop the context. We need to have these conversations. We need to get out of the stigma of of the statistics. I can't say the word. The
Yep.
the stereotypes, these bad understanding that we are allowing to be our truths, these bad beliefs that we're trying to believe is true, and then we're putting it and projecting it on people without even giving them a chance. All you have to do is just be kind or just be open minded. Just be open
Yep.
minded. If you don't want to be kind, fine. Just have an open mind at least. Have an open mind at least and hear what somebody's been saying because whatever you see on the outside doesn't always represent what's on the inside. And I love that you said that because I think more people need to understand that. You know what I realize is that it's not a certain race, it's not a certain religion, it's not a certain area on earth, it's a character. When people have a bad character, it's going to be in anyone. It can be in any human being that's out there. So we have to watch out for characters, not for a certain sex, not for a certain race, not for a certain belief, anything like that. It's about that character because that character is what stings the world. That character is what makes you believe that a certain stereotype is a certain way, because in reality it's not. It's a certain character. And we need to really separate that too, because man, I have seen the most kindest souls from people that you would never have understood, you would
Well,
never have
yeah.
expected, because of the stigmas and the racists and the discrimination or whatever that people want to bestow onto somebody or some group. And it's like, wow, I love you for all that you are, because you are nothing of what they tell you that you should be. And that's what we need to be. You know what I mean? I feel like we need to be, as human beings, define every stereotype, define any statistics that's out there, define anything that makes you in a corner that's not who you are. And oh my goodness. Melissa! I love this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about Melissa, because how could you not after this conversation? Oh my goodness, I'm so sad. How could you not? Please go check her out. I have a lovely photo on my website. Just click on it and it goes down to her website to find all the great content that she has to offer the world, so that we can continue on thinking. She's trying to help people think in a different way so that we can have more of an open mind, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the goal, right? To always keep thinking. Bye.